Hello everyone, welcome to another Quad Education Test Prep Fundamentals video. My name is Tom, and today we're talking about a miserable little grammar topic that everyone hates. So I introduce a lot of these lessons with here's a kind of question that everyone hates, but this is why it's not that bad. But in this case, it might actually be that bad. The topic today is sentence placement, so let's take a look at why it's so terrible. Okay, sentence placement. Nobody's favorite question type. So how do we spot sentence placement? Well, it's that question that asks you to move sentences around. Usually you're moving a sentence around within a single paragraph, but occasionally you'll be asked to move a sentence around throughout an entire passage. So any question that says, hey, can you move this here or there? And I will say that moving a sentence around an entire passage and not just limited to one paragraph happens a lot more frequently on ACT than SAT. And actually every once in a while, like very infrequently, you'll actually need to move a whole paragraph around in the passage. But whatever it is that you're moving around, you'll be able to tell that it's a sentence placement question because the instructions will explicitly ask you to be moving something around. And so you're doing your sentence placement question and you're thinking to yourself, why is this so unpleasant? Well, that's because these involve a ton of reading. And that reading actually involves comprehension, which is different from what you usually have to do in a grammar section. Because, most of the time in English sections, when you're reading, you're not really reading. You're just sort of skimming the meaning and paying more attention to the grammar because that's mostly what you're fixing. But with sentence placement, you've actually got to be paying attention to the content. And what's worse is the thing that you have to pay attention to is one of these ACT English or SAT writing sections that are garbled and full of errors already. And that makes it even more difficult to understand. And then once you're done reading and you have some idea of what's going on, now you've got to put everything into a specific order. That's pretty rough. And obviously this can take a ton of time, and so that's also not very helpful because of the timing of the test. So now that we've done ample complaining about these, how are we supposed to actually do them? Well, take a look at this example paragraph that I've written here, where I've moved one of the sentences around in one of the examples, because this is the same thing twice, it's just with one sentence changed around. Give it a read and let me know which one you think makes more sense. Okay, let's give these a read and see which one sort of makes more sense. First one, every morning I wake up and start making my breakfast. Then I bring the bread out of the pantry. While the bread is toasting in the toaster, I slice up the avocado and crack the eggs into the pan. First, I get the eggs and avocado out of the fridge. Finally, once the bread is toasted and the eggs are cooked, I spread the avocado on the toast and put the egg on top. Okay, let's read the next one and see if that makes any more sense. Every morning I wake up and start making my breakfast. First, I get the eggs and avocado out of the fridge. Then I bring the bread out of the pantry. While the bread is toasting in the toaster, I slice up the avocado and crack the eggs in the pan. Finally, once the bread is toasted and the eggs are cooked, I spread the avocado on the toast and put the egg on top. Okay, so which one sounds better? Well, pretty clearly the second one sounds better because in the second one, the sentence that starts with first actually comes first in the sequence of things I'm doing to make my breakfast. And that's one of those key things that you can do to get these questions correct. What you want to find is the key time markers. The time markers are the things that indicate the order of the actions. In this case, the transition first in the sentence tells us where it comes in the sequence. Another way I've seen this done is for years. So it would be like one sentence says in 1940, and then another sentence that says in 1952. And then there's a sentence you have to decide where it goes, and the beginning of that sentence is in 1945. So if you're doing chronological order, it would go between the 1940s and the 1950s. Other clues for how to do sentence placement are pronouns and naming conventions. So for pronouns, if you saw the word he in a sentence that you had to move around, you need to put that after actually naming who he was, so giving that person's name. So the passage would be clear about who we were talking about in that case. And the same goes for naming conventions. So the first time you introduce somebody in good academic writing, you say their first name and their last name. And then after that, you're going to only refer to them by their last name. So you'll know that the first time that they appear in the passage, you'll need to say first name and last name. For example, if we were to talk about someone named Jane Williams, the first time we talk about that person, we would say Jane Williams. And then afterwards, we would just say Williams. But actually, there's another strategy that you should probably use on these sentence placement questions. And this one will actually save you a ton of time. And that strategy is skip them. Yeah, just don't do them. There are between 1 and 3 of these per test, and they all take probably more than a minute to do. I tell students just to not do these until these are the only questions that they're not getting right, because there's so many easier questions to do than this. So yeah, just don't do them, and you'll probably be doing yourself a favor, because if one of these takes you 2 minutes and you don't get it right, then that's 2 minutes you could have been doing getting 2 other questions correct. Anyway, let's look at some practice problems to show the methods we've talked about here. Okay, I have 2 practice problems, and they're both pretty large, so we're just going to go through one at a time. So here's our first one. The number of the sentence comes first, so when it says 1, that's the first sentence, and then in brackets 2, that's the second sentence. So give this one a look and see what we can do. All right, let's take a look at this first one. So we're moving around sentence 2. So we'll look at the sentence that we're moving around. Though the price for our tickets was higher than that of other tickets of comparable shows, it was still affordable to most theater goers and reflected the real cost of the performance. So we have this word though, which I think is going to be a pretty good time marker because it's saying though is indicating a contrast from the previous sentence. And so where it is right now, we have one innovative playwright has woven the deficiencies of the system into her crowdfunding model. And I really haven't talked about tickets yet, so I'm not sure I like where it is now. And then if we look after 3, so the sentence 3 here, she presented the total cost for producing her play on a crowdfunding site. So still haven't mentioned tickets yet, but we're starting to talk about cost, which I like. So I'm not super sold on 3 yet. For 4, she divided the total cost by the number of people she expected to attend the performance. Okay, in the right direction. And then the result of the calculation was the minimum donor price, and only donors who paid at least the minimum ticket price were allowed to attend the performance. Oh, here's our ticket price. And then we say, okay, so only people who paid the minimum price were allowed to attend the performance, though that price, the price that she's calculated here, was higher than that of other comparable shows, it was still affordable. So we can see by looking at the key pronouns and time markers here that after sentence 5 makes the most sense because we haven't talked about tickets until after 5, and we can't put it any later. Okay, let's clear this one out, and let's do the next one. Okay, here's our second one. Take a second here and see what we can do. All right, let's take a look. So it's sentence 5 that we're moving around in this one. And so that sentence 5 says, Berlin advocated using soil extraction, removing small amounts of soil from under the tower's north side opposite its tilt to enable gravity to straighten the tower. So we've got Berlin, which I'm assuming is a person, and it's the last name. And looking back at the beginning of the sentence, they do give me the John Berlin, his whole name. And it doesn't look like I can put it before here. I wouldn't want to do that anyway, because like I said, with naming conventions, this is the first time we've talked about him. And so, all right, well, let's look at after 1. Enter committee member John Berlin, a geotechnical engineer from England who saved London's clock tower, Big Ben, from collapse. And then we'd say Berlin advocated using soil extraction, removing small amounts of soil from under the tower's north side. I don't mind that, actually. That may be all right, just because we say his full name, then his name, and we're saying what he wants to do. And so maybe that first one. The next one here, placed after 2. Berlin began a years-long process of drilling out small amounts of soil from under the tower and then monitoring the tower's resulting movement. So I don't want to put it after this because without sentence 5 here, or the sentence that is currently in 5, we're kind of surprised by talking about soil at all. So like, what is soil doing here if not having been explained by the fact we're doing soil extraction? So I'm feeling like I probably don't want to put this any later. Same goes for sentence 3. If it doesn't work because it's too late after sentence 2, then going even later won't help. And then deleting it, well, this is important. Like, I need to know what this guy is suggesting that we do here, because otherwise we're just talking about soil out of the blue and it doesn't make a ton of sense. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and go with right after sentence 1.
Okay, that's it for this video. There's a good reason why people dislike these sentence placement questions so much, and that's that they're difficult and really tedious. If you are going to tackle these questions, make sure that you're looking for key pronouns and time markers so that you don't lose your way and you can save a bit of time. But more to saving your time, remember that it's probably worth it just to skip these and not do them at all in the grand scheme of things for pacing for this section. If you found this video useful, we hope that you'll like and share it, and also subscribe to Quad Education. If you require additional tutoring, please reach out to us and we're happy to help there. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.